Before we begin, let's address the elephant in the room. I have a new microphone, yeah. Basically, the cable has rusted and I can't use it, so I'm having to use this one. Okay, obviously that's not the elephant in the room. Completely self-inflicted, but I have broken the ligament in my wrist and therefore I've needed surgery. Next time, I will plan to be more careful in the gym. Anyway, it just means that doing basic tasks at the moment have been incredibly difficult. So thanks to those who have been helping me recently. But also, it means over the next few videos, you guys are going to see me doing recordings with this. Slightly inconvenient, but I don't want to stop the content. And thankfully, before I had this incident, I recorded a bunch of stuff. So make sure you follow for the content that we've got coming up real soon. Okay, let's start. Spain is loud. Let's just start there. And I don't mean that as a complaint. Quite the opposite. It's a celebration, a joyful observation. Because the noise you hear in Spain, whether it's laughter echoing down the street, people shouting over each other in a bar, or someone singing at 2 in the morning during a random festival you didn't even know was happening, it's not just noise, it's life. In Spain, being loud isn't rude, it's expressive. People talk with their hands, which is what I'm doing right now, with their eyes, with their entire bodies, and yes, with their voices. There's passion in how people speak here. You feel it, and even though you might think someone's arguing, they're probably just debating over which tapas is the best. That volume, that energy, it's part of the culture. A big part of this comes down to how important family and community are. In a lot of Spanish households, meals are an event. You'll have kids, parents, grandparents, cousins, everyone around the table at the same time. And no one's whispering. Everyone's talking at once. Stories are flying, jokes are bouncing off the walls, and the TV's on in the background. Probably playing some football match. It's chaos, but it's also warm. It's welcoming. That background noise is the sound of people being together. And of course, it's not just inside the home. The streets are alive. Spanish cities and towns are built for social life. Bars spill out into pavements, plazas are full of people sitting, chatting, laughing, sometimes shouting, at all hours of the day and night. And a big reason for that is the weather. I mean, let's be honest, if you've got blue skies and warm evenings most of the year, you're not going to stay cooped up inside. People are out, they're active, they're living life in public. Reflecting on my time in Madrid, I remember even during the winter when it was very cold, during the evenings, people would be out partying, people would be sitting on the terrazas. But the big difference between the UK and specifically Madrid is that the humidity in the UK is a lot higher. So even though it is freezing cold in Madrid, in the winter it doesn't really feel that cold. And as long as you have a coat on, you feel pretty warm. So that typical feeling of your fingers, nose and ears, they're still pretty comfortable. It's not like in the UK where you feel like they're going to fall off. And of course, this means it's comfortable enough to actually sit outside. Anyway, that was a slight diversion. Let's continue with the topic at hand. And then there are the festivals. Spain has more festivals than I can keep track of. Genuinely, I've lost count of how many times I've been out in a city or town and suddenly there's fireworks going off or a parade of people in traditional costumes marching past with drums. In fact, just before I started this recording, I was sitting on my sofa thinking how I'm going to set everything up with my arm. It's very difficult and I need a lot of help thanks to my girlfriend. And we could hear what sounded like fireworks coming from outside. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm thinking to myself, have they got some sort of fallas going on or something? And my girlfriend said, it's probably a festival that is specific to a village just outside of Valencia. Again, just a good example of where there's just parties all the time here in Spain. And nobody knows what they're about, unless you're from the town, I suppose. And half the time, even they don't really know. They'll just shrug and they'll say it's for sans someone or other, and then carry on dancing. It's non-stop. The fiestas are loud, they're bright, and they're everywhere. In some parts of Spain, it feels like there's something happening every week, and that constant buzz feeds into daily life. It keeps the energy high. But here's the thing, Spain isn't just one culture. It's a country made up of many regions, each with its own identity, its own languages even. I've spoken about this in multiple different videos in the past, but there is one specifically that you can watch which is about the different languages here in Spain. Feel free to go back and watch that if you'd like. Each region even has its own volume setting. So while people often generalize and say, well, Spaniards are just loud, that's not always true. In places like Andalusia or Madrid, you'll often find that, yes, the energy is very high. But if you go to the north, such as the Basque Country or Galicia, things can be a bit more reserved. Not cold, just quieter. Catalonia too, depending on where you are. So you do get these interesting contrasts. And I think that's part of what makes Spain so fascinating. You can drive a couple of hours and feel like you've entered a completely different world. Different traditions, different language, and yes, different noise levels. One comparison I like to make is in the UK, you can drive 30 minutes and the accent has changed completely. This doesn't really exist in Spain, but what can happen is from region to region, you have people speaking entirely different languages. This is amazing in itself, but it's completely different from what we have in the UK. Now, I'll be honest, before I spent time here, I used to think I was quite introverted, but Spain has a way of bringing you out of your comfort zone. I'm not saying for 1 minute that I'm 100% extroverted though, I'm definitely a mix of the two. But as a result of Spain bringing me out my comfort zone, I find myself raising my voice a bit more. Not in an aggressive way, it's not like that, it's more like matching the energy. And over time it rubs off on you. You start to feel more open, more animated, more alive. That volume, that rhythm, it's one of the reasons why I feel very proud to live in this amazing country. And as I've spoken about before, I feel very British, but also accepted into the Spanish way of life and the culture. My identity has been shaped by being in this amazing country, and I feel very proud and lucky to be here. So yeah, Spain is loud, but in the best possible way. It's a country that wears its heart on its sleeve, that lives outdoors, that finds joy in the everyday. And for someone like me coming from a completely different cultural background, that openness has been genuinely refreshing. But I want to be clear, this isn't about saying one way is better than the other. I'm proud to be British. I love where I'm from. There's a depth to British culture that I'll always carry with me. The dry humor, the subtlety, the self-awareness. And yes, sometimes silence is golden. There's a quiet strength in knowing when to speak and when to listen. And that's something we do really well back home. But I also think, if I'm being honest, that in the UK, we sometimes hold back a bit too much. We can get caught up in being polite, in being proper, in not wanting to step on anyone's toes. And I get it, there's value in being considerate. But what I've learned from being in Spain is that difference isn't something to tiptoe around. It's something to celebrate. You don't have to agree on everything to laugh together, eat together, live side by side. People here embrace the chaos. And I found that really liberating. Living here has shown me that it doesn't have to be one or the other. There's a balance to be found between expression and respect, between volume and silence, between where I'm from and where I am now. And maybe that's what makes this country so special to me. It hasn't replaced my identity, it's added to it. I still feel British. I've also grown into this new rhythm of life. And I feel very lucky, genuinely lucky, to be a part of both worlds. So yes, Spain is loud, and I love it, not just because it's different, but because it's honest. And in its own wonderful, chaotic way, it makes you feel alive too. And if you like this kind of content, maybe you should check out this one here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.